Hey y'all, we are continuing our series on chord scales, and today we will play our chords. We're still in the key of C. We will play them with the fifth note of the chord on top. So for our C major 7, that's going to be G, because C, D, E, F, G, obviously. The next chord is D minor 7, so that's going to be A on top. I think you're going to like these chords. I think chords... Like last week I said chords with the third on top sounded usually better than chords with the one on top. I think it's also true of chords with the fifth on top. And they're really actually pretty easy to play. The shapes are very, I don't know, almost symmetrical except for the minor 7 flat 5, and I'll show you that's just a little trick on that. When we're in the key of C though, we're going to start on this G. And we're going to end on this G. So we're going kind of high. And when we get up here, it can be hard to play all four notes of the chord. But we will just stay on this one string all the way up. So we're going to go G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Because this is the C scale starting on G. So C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, or G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. So just review a little bit. Go back and watch the first two videos in this series. Chord scales with the first note of each chord. So C, D, E, F, G on top, on the highest string. With the third note, so E, F, G, A, B, C, D, all the way to E. And now we're on the fifth. So we're going to start on the G. Now, this allows us to play full four-note chords. We're not going to have to reduce these to three to start out. But when we get beyond the 12th fret, it is easier to play three-note chords. Unless your fingers come together a little bit better than mine do. I have very long fingers, very, very long fingers, and I get my fingers tied up trying to do a four-note chord in this style past the 12th fret. So we're going to start with C major 7. And that's what I like about the fifth on top. That is such a nice, pleasant chord. I mean, if I'm playing a song and I'm singing along with it and I need to play a major 7 and it doesn't really matter which note is my top note, I'm probably going to put the fifth on top. So anyway, C major 7, D minor 7, also a great sounding chord. E minor 7, F major 7. What a great sounding chord that is. I mean, honestly, the fifths on top, just to me, they sound more melodic than just about any other way of doing it. All right, G dominant 7. Whoops. Got my finger off a little bit right there. Let's see if I can get that better. What was that? G. So I'm at A minor 7. This is going to be the B minor 7 flat 5. So obviously I just need to slide up to B, but I also have to pull my pinky back one fret, and I could try to play it like that, but I have trouble, so I'm just going to go like that. And the same is true for the C. I'm just going to play it with three notes. So, if you're not familiar with the chords, go back and review the videos that are the major 7 chords, the minor 7 chords, dominant 7 chords, and minor 7 flat 5s. Or, I will put the chord chart in the show notes. Look for, go down to your major 7, that it's a triangle beside a 7. That's how we denote a major 7. Look for the ones with the 5 on top. So remember this C natural major scale, chord scale, goes C major 7, D minor 7, E minor 7, F major 7, G dominant 7, A minor 7, B minor 7 flat 5, and then you're back to C major 7. The reason is all the notes have to be within the key of the C natural scale. C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, no flats, no sharps. So when you, as I've said before, you go from a C major 7, which is C, E, G, B, to a D minor 7, because you can't have a sharp F. It's got to be D, F, A, C, D. E minor 7 has got to be, E, G, D, E. Where did I miss? I missed one. E, G, B, D, E. It all has to fall within the C scale. If that doesn't make sense, just back up and watch last week's video, the video before that. It's going to come to you very easily. We're playing chords that each note moves up 1 degree of the C natural major scale. So again, C natural major scale is C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. Here we're just starting on the G, so yeah, it's that easy. Now, arpeggios in this, just as the chords sound really good with the fifth on top, arpeggiating out of these positions sounds good. Whenever you're jamming with somebody, especially in jazz, rock, country, starting on the fifth just sounds good. Usually, it's if you're playing, if you start on the C, you can sound a little too scale based. If you start on the G in a C chord, if you start on the fifth, you sound really good, especially on the mandolin, because we have the fifth down here, so we can go. Very simple. I am just arpeggiating the notes of that chord. G, B, C, E, that's E, G, B, C, and of course you got the C here, or open, and G. So I can go. Super simple. When you play your chords, and again, it's going to be. Just lay that finger across there. You can arpeggiate each one of them. You can go. Okay, I'm probably gonna get lost here. I'll try to do a couple of them, but let's say we start on the G here. All right. Okay, that's the arpeggio for the C, the D, the E. I can keep going, of course. What's that? C, I'm on C, so. Okay, so it's C, E, F, A, C. You see, we're just playing patterns up and down the neck. I'm not going to arpeggiate all the chords because thinking and playing at the same time is not my strong suit. I think while I practice so that I can play without thinking, if that makes any sense. But you've seen me arpeggiate all the chords before. We're just starting from the G and we're ending on the G in C. We're starting on the A and we're ending on the A in the chord of D minor 7. We're starting on the B, we're ending on the B in the chord of E minor 7, and just keep going on up and down. Okay, you'll get these real easy, but I think you're going to find them just very useful, especially for improvising and jamming. If there's a song and they're playing the C. You can just super simple, actually. I think the fifth position is probably the easiest of the chord scales in terms of how the notes lay out on the neck, which kind of makes sense because the mandolin itself is tuned in fifths. Always remember that. The mandolin is tuned in fifths. If you put your finger down on the C, the G is right beside it. You can actually play scales in what do they call them? Relative fifths? Like if I wanted to go. Very useful in fiddle tunes, bluegrass playing. Those bluesy double stops in bluegrass. Relative fifths, the fifth being relative to the C, the G being relative to the C, just seem to work really easily on a fifth tuned instrument like the mandolin. A little bit trickier on the fiddle or violin, just because you don't have frets. But tenor banjo, bass, if it's tuned a fifth tuned bass, everything just kind of makes sense in terms of fifths. Now, what's another little trick? Well, remember, okay, so again, we're going to start with our note C here. If the next note over is G, the fifth, what's the next note over going up? It's the third. You can turn a major chord into a minor chord just by doing that. I mean, that's what's so great about fifth tuned instrument is their symmetry across the fretboard. Any note I find, I can put down just a random note. I'm not looking, what is this? This is, what is that? E? Yeah, E, F, G. E. Well, then the B is going to be the fifth. I got my fifth right here. Piece of cake, right? Anywhere you put down, there's a G, there's D right beside it. There's the third right there. See? I mean, it's just like so easy to find your chords if you always remember this is a fifth tuned instrument. And from any string, any note, on E string, on E fret, the one immediately above it, I guess we would say, we're going from low to high. That's kind of opposite of the orientation of the instrument, but the next string going this way is the fifth. And drop back one fret going this way and you got your third. How simple is that? And always remember, the next one down is the flat 7. So if you need to do a quick change from a major to a 7, that's all you got to do. So anyway, I think don't overthink this one. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. These are actually chords you can play as a shape. Okay. Your fingers are staying the same here because these are relative fifths. There we go. Right? If you just want to do 2-note chords, you can play a chord scale because these are fifths. You're only actually moving mostly the what is that? The seventh. Yeah. And the third. Yeah, I'm going to move the seventh and the third. So like if I have the C major 7 chord here, and I want to turn into a minor 7, I just move this note back one and this note back one. So I'm going from here. That's a C minor 7. If I want to play a C dominant 7, all I have to do is move this one up one. So see, really, you're only moving 2 fingers from a major 7 to a minor 7 to a dominant 7, and then for a minor 7 flat 5, I would move this one back down, and I've got to figure out how to, yeah, and that's a tough chord, but I've had to flat my 5 and my 7 and my third. Is that right? Flat my 5, my 7, and my third. Yeah. So, yeah. Yeah. And then we're back to our major 7. And those sound good. They don't sound too barky. They don't sound too tenory until you get above the 12th fret. So play around with it. As always, if you have a question, let me know. Email me, judson@judsoncarroll.com, or leave a comment under the video in the comment section. I will get right back with you. The chord chart will be in the show notes, so no need to fear. Take about a week and get used to playing major 7, minor 7, dominant 7, minor 7 flat 5 with the 5th on top in the key of C. Then start practicing in other keys, obviously. Play around a little bit with those arpeggios. To me, the 5th, because of that relative position, is just so intuitive. I mean, if you've got your C major arpeggio, right? Well, just start it here. Well, where'd I go? Yeah. So, I mean, you know, G, E, C, B, G, E, C, G, E. Super. Just super simple. Super intuitive. Don't overthink it. Just let your ear go on this one. Next week we'll finish up the series. We'll go with chords with the 7 on top. They're almost as easy, and they sound. That's the ones you want to go with for a lot of blues tunes. Those you're going to get your bluesier notes. But I think for, just kind of upbeat, kind of jazzy, poppy type songs, the 5th on top sounds really good. And always we can mix these together. The chord scale is a theoretical tool for practice. It enables you to learn the neck. It enables you to understand the relationship of chords and the arpeggios so that you can you're free to improvise. It's like, John Coltrane was known to practice for like 48 hours straight without a break, and he would do nothing but play variations on the C scale. Now he's playing a saxophone, he couldn't play chords, so we could go a lot. We could do 72 hours, I don't know. But he would play every single scale over and over, every single mode, every single arpeggio to every single chord, and he would just do that. And it's probably why he died, actually, from exhaustion and drug abuse, and the drugs fueled that obsessive tendency of his, of course, and vice versa. But don't use drugs. Bad for you. So anyway, practicing all this in the key of C orients our mind, our ears, and our fingers to everything you want to play. And then when you play in another key, well, you're just moving up and down a little bit or down a little bit. You're not reinventing the wheel. You got everything, on every chord, the relationship of every note in an arpeggio, the relationship of every note when we form a chord. I know it takes a little time. It's going to take you a good hour to get used to playing any of these chord scales. But then you can get to the point where you practice them in about a minute to 2 minutes in a day. And you do it every day for a year, and I almost guarantee, okay, you get my guarantee for what it's worth, as in you get this lesson for free, and I'm not going to pay you a thing if it doesn't work out. But it would be nearly impossible not to absolutely master the mandolin if you practice chord scales and arpeggios every single day. And, no one ever told me that as a starting out mandolin player. They just taught me tunes, and I could learn to play a tune like somebody else played it, and that was about it. It was only once I started actually learning music theory on my own, going through old books where people were actually expected to have a working knowledge of music, having been taught it in school. We weren't taught music in school. We had a recorder. We learned Three Blind Mice, and nobody told us anything beyond that. When you're growing up, you learn to play music by ear, hopefully, or imitating somebody else. When I started learning music theory on my own, that's when I began to be able to improvise and become a creative musician and become a fairly good musician. I mean, I may not be the best, but I'm certainly a whole lot better than I was when I picked up this, an instrument like this, another mandolin, 25, 30 years ago. I was horrible. And all I could do was imitate other people. It wasn't until I got this kind of basic music theory down that the world unlocked for me and I was able to play it. So that's like my whole goal in doing this is if you're 15 years old or you're 50 and you've either just picked up the instrument or you've been playing it for 30 or 40 years and you've gotten stuck or you can't get to the next level, maybe you're not a musical genius like Jerry Lee Lewis or somebody who just sat down and played everything just amazingly by ear, right? You're just an average guy like me. You got to have a practical system of practice that trains the ear and the mind and the hands together. Coordinate it with the mouth and you get everything working together. But also there is a theoretical approach, and these chord scales are essentially a practice tool that you're not going to use in real life. But every one of those arpeggios will fall in somewhere. You'll be sitting there jamming with somebody and you'll just whip out one of those arpeggios I just played. Where was I? I was on the G. Any combination of those notes, in any order. They're just going to flow. They're just going to flow. And you're going to throw a million other ideas in there and you're going to build off of it. And you're kind of something creative. Or chords, especially when we get into chord substitutions and chord progressions. This is invaluable. If you know your chord scales, anytime you see something that's calls for a one chord, C major 7 in this, or any kind of C major chord, you can substitute an A minor 7, an E minor 7, a 3 or 5 for it. And then if you go to a G7 and the same thing, you can go to D minor 7 to G7. That's a 2-5-1. That's the signature sound of traditional jazz. This stuff's going to become so natural to you and come to you so easily that you probably won't even remember when you learned it. It'll be like breathing. You'll just know how to do it. But only if you learn your chord scales. Well, learn your single note scales, learn your chord scales, and then we're going to get into modes. And really start with the chromatic scale, go to the natural major scale. After that, we will get into minor scales and pentatonic scales and modes, and it's all just moving one finger, one fret. It's so easy, and it will literally become like breathing. And then you just have to develop your ear so you can hear what the key is that's being played. know your chord progressions, and again, follow your ear so you know what chord you need to be playing. And you won't have to have a tablature in front of you. You won't even have to have a lead sheet, a piece of sheet music. You can just solo. I mean, so many of the greatest, well, I'll give you a perfect example. Arguably, one of the 5 best clarinetists of all time was Pete Fountain. Now, everybody's going to talk about, Benny Goodman. Of course, he was phenomenal. Artie Shaw, phenomenal. I mean, these guys, what was his name? Johnny Dodds used to play with Louis Armstrong. But you go down the list. Pete Fountain was known for playing in the Lawrence Welk Orchestra. He actually wasn't on there very long. He only made a few years because Lawrence Welk was kind of a teetotaler, and Pete Fountain was from New Orleans and part Creole, and like to have a few drinks, as we tend to do, people of our heritage. And he was just the star of the Lawrence Welk Orchestra. Before then, he played some phenomenal Dixieland music with Dukes of Dixieland and such. After that, he had his own band for several years. If you want to see probably the best live jazz concert of all time, is Pete Fountain and Al Hirt. I think it was probably about the late 80s, mid 80s at Wolf Trap. It was on one of those big PBS spectaculars, 2-hour concert. It's in 2 parts on YouTube with an encore. Pete Fountain blows everybody away. Blew everybody out of the water. Now you got Pete Fountain in that concert, and Al Hirt, which was known for playing the Green Hornet theme. Was a really technical genius. He was a classically trained musician, the guy into jazz later in life. Pete Fountain never learned to read music. Pete Fountain grew up listening to all that jazz music, learning scales and arpeggios by ear, and never looked at a lead sheet, never looked at a chord chart. Band starts playing, he starts improvising like the greatest of all time. I mean, seriously, he listened to him. I mean, it was amazing. Louis Armstrong did learn to read music, but he was a phenomenal musician before then. When he used to joke he never learned enough to hurt him none. You can listen to these guys. Jack Teagarden on the trombone. I could go down the list, and I'm just thinking horn players right now. We could get into mandolin players, and I mean, you got to get those technical things down one way or another. You can grow up in it and learn it all by ear and by watching other people like a Pete Fountain or a Louis Armstrong. That didn't work for me. I could get some of it. I could fake my way through it. I've always been a pretty good blues player. But when it gets into something more technical, and you have to arpeggio, you're playing over chords, you're playing more of a jazz style of playing, you better have that down. You need to know the notes of that chord. For me, it was finding these old music books from the 1920s and such that assumed people would have a formal education in music. First thing I had to do was teach myself to read music. No one ever taught me in school. That took a couple of years, actually. And then I could read like the Eddie Lang books for guitar, the McNeil method for tenor banjo, some of the old mandolin books. I think Jethro Burns' book was in both standard notation and tab. It was so over my head when I first picked it up. I mean, seriously. And it was so like bluegrass and old time oriented. I'm like, wait a minute, no, I listen to Jethro Burns. He's playing jazz and stuff. Why is he playing, Turkey in the Straw? I'm not getting this. Then somebody posted online their live lessons with Jethro Burns, where they just turned on a tape recorder and he was teaching them. So over my head, I couldn't believe it. I mean, if you don't know your scales, and you don't know your modes, and you don't know your arpeggios, and you don't know your chord changes, you could not sit down with Jethro Burns and learn to play from him. And so these chord scales, even though they can be a little onerous to learn, once you get them down, you're going to have them down, and they're going to unlock a whole world for you, I promise. So stick with me for another week on this, and then we'll get into some easier stuff. I also promise that. This is going to be about the most complicated thing we do, but this is the key that unlocks it all. All right, y'all. Have a good one. I'll talk to you next time.